Hey everyone, welcome to Movie Talk with Press Play Cinema. This is your host, Rose Sanchez, and we have some amazing guests today. We have Adriel, Meka, and Sam Pagan, both animators and lighting specialists. So talk to us a little bit about yourselves before I tell people what you guys are capable of.
Hey guys.
Adriel start.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. Hey guys, my name is Adriel. I am originally from Montreal, Quebec, Canada. I am an animator, an illustrator, and a biz dev artist based out of Montreal and Los Angeles. And I have experience working at Disney and at Nickelodeon. I'm super happy to be here. Thank you so much, Rose, for your time, and great to see Sam again.
All right. Likewise, Adriel. So my name is Sam Pagan. I'm a lighting compositing artist. My experiences has been 5 years in the industry, from commercials to series to movies, from either mostly animation. And now I'm here coaching people, telling people how I've done things, giving my best advice and how to make your art monetizable. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, that's perfect. Well, without further ado, let me show you guys a little sneak peek of what these men are capable of. They are amazing. I saw those little videos yesterday and I was like, wow, these guys are brilliant. So let me show you guys, starting with Sam Pagan. Let's go, and here you go, guys.
Out of 10.
Awesome, awesome. Now let's go to Adriel Meka's demo. Let's show it right here. Guys, embrace yourself. These people are amazing. Now, guys,
11 out of 10.
Thank you.
No, you guys are amazing. I was impressed because I know that the animation process is very, very time consuming. So, guys, I commend you for your art. That being said, is there anything that you guys want to say to the audience before I start asking questions?
Do you want me to start?
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Take it, Sam.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so everyone that's following me, that has been my student, that has been through my journey, welcome to our stream. As you know, our goal since Adriel and I have been doing the meet and greets is for you guys to connect with professionals, have the right knowledge, and our mission since September of last year has been that all you guys have been witness of how connecting events like this makes the difference. Some of you have told us that you guys have met directors, that you guys have met producers, that you guys have met very important connections thanks to our events. So thank you so much for participating in this, and thank you for having us.
Amazing. And just to echo that sentiment, yes, I believe Sam and I's mission has always been just to show people how cool the animation table is, and just to be able to have everyone feel like they're a part of a community. And we are so grateful for opportunities like this and for spaces like the ones we get to create with the meet and greet, and just showing you the power that, with animation in general and all the people, we could really achieve what we want to. So thank you so much. And yeah, I'm excited to chat a little bit more about animation.
Yes, of course. And just to throw this on right there, I have my daughter. I was an actress in Jacksonville. I brought her to set to act with me. She's like, she did well, but then she's like, no, this is not my thing. And I'm like, okay, then look for something you're good at. She started drawing, and now she's making like little tiny animations. And I'm telling you guys that having this interview is something I'm definitely showing her, and she's gonna be so happy about it. So let's go ahead with our questions. We have our first question. You guys can take turns. It can be Adriel first or Sam first. It doesn't really matter. I know you guys have worked together, so go ahead. Our first question is, can you walk us through the process of creating an animated film from the start to finish?
Adriel, go.
Go for it. All right. Yeah, basically nowadays, animation as a medium has really gone into so many different facets as far as what we see on the screen. So you have things like stop motion animation, like Wallace and Gromit and Kubo, and things coming out of Leica. You have CG animation, things like Sony, Disney, and Pixar, and you have 2D animation, like a lot of people grew up on and stuff. So as far as the execution of how it visually looks, that can take a lot of different forms. But I still say, regardless of the final product, it all starts with idea and story. People want to see what they gravitate towards. People gravitate towards things that they can see themselves in and things that they can reflect to. So the best stories and best animation come from people that have the great ideas that they can reflect on the screen. So that being said, usually you start off with the idea. The idea turns out into becoming a script or a storyboard, if you're depending on the line of work that you're trying to do. Finally, after the storyboards are completed, you need to figure out kind of the art direction. So let's say we haven't seen like a Robin Hood style story. It would be so cool, but let's say it took place in 2059, like a futuristic kind of a take on it. So you need to establish a visual fingerprint and an art direction towards it, and essentially give everyone a destination that they're all going to be moving towards. From then, everything else just kind of stacks on top of it. You have the people creating all the assets. You have voice actors that are bringing the characters to life. You have animators that are acting basically at the same time as the voice actors, and everyone kind of works together to bring this amazing story to the screen. Sam could talk about all the logistics as far as lighting and his forte as well.
Yes. So, Adriel said basically everything. So, what I would add, yes, after the ideation, after the technical medium has been chosen. For example, if it's going to be 2D, it's going to be 3D or stop motion, just like Adriel said. Then our job is to make it a possibility that we use these mediums to make it as clear as possible what our story and our message is. And depending on the success of how clear and concise we are to drive the audience into specific motions and stuff like that, then that's going to be the success of the movie, just like in filmmaking. And then when it comes to 3D, for example, we use software to emulate what seems to be a stylized 3D animated for kids kind of thing. And then but the process is not kiddish at all. It's super for adults and for very technical people, programmers and stuff like that. And in my section is a mix between the art, which is lighting, and a little bit of technical part, which is how to get that lighting effectively. And once I'm given a shot, the characters are already there, the sets are already there, the textures have already been done, and it's my job to bring the artistic part of the scene, which is lighting. And after that is done, then if there is some tweaks that we have to do in compositing, like adding some 2D elements, adding smoke, adding some effects, then that is also my job. So that's a little bit about the process of animation.
I have a question for you, Sam. So when it comes to the lighting, because I know when it comes to the creating process, you don't stop until you feel completely comfortable and confident with your job, with your craft. What is that feeling that you're looking for when you're doing all this lighting process, and there's the one? Okay, this is what's gonna go. What is
Right.
that feeling? Tell me a
In
little bit.
short, yes, in short, my favorite word recently has been clarity. For example, if this is a romantic scene and you want to make it seem romantic, what am I doing as a lighter to make it clear that this is the mood? If suddenly I'm using green lights, Halloween-ish mood, but it's romantic, it's not very clear that this is a romantic scene. So I'm a big fan of clarity. And if, for example, if there's a romantic scene and I do some lighting using specific colors, specific intensities, and stuff like that, look for feedback and be like, what do you see? And if they tell me, well, it seems like something romantic's coming up, it's like, okay, then it's clear. We're done here.
Okay, perfect. Listen, obviously you're good at what you do. And that's why you've had all the opportunities you've had. You actually take your job very seriously. And talking about that, there's a post you made, I think it was yesterday, in LinkedIn about having the love for the craft and those setbacks, because sometimes it's boring. We're gonna get into that very,
Okay.
very soon, because I have a question that focuses on that. So let's go to our second question. Our
Perfect.
second question is, what software and tools do you use for animation, and how does it impact the final product?
Yeah,
Let's
I
start
mean,
with Adriel.
yeah, for sure. As far as this goes, definitely going to be on the forend side, so pre-production side of it. A lot of the tools that I'm using tend to be something like I am a big fan of Procreate for iPad, which is just like a portable version of Photoshop, because my job specifically is character designing, viz dev, painting, and concept art. So literally, I'm coming from the perspective where, from the ideas, the director comes to me and they're like, "Hey, we have a character. They need to be majestic. They need to be timid, they need to have a reluctant side, but also, so they describe the character. We want them to be X, Y, and Z, or we want them to be X, Y, and Z. And after I get all of these logistics and descriptions and we have the visual fingerprint or the art direction established, it's my job to ideate the character. So I'm doing a ton of sketching, I'm doing a ton of painting, I'm doing a lot of iterative work, where then I can finally show the final concept and you can look at that character and indefinitely just be like, that is it. On the front end, that's a lot of what I'm doing. When it comes to animation, I use a lot of 3D tools like Autodesk Maya. I used a little bit of Cinema 4D as well, depending on getting a little bit of rendered looks and stuff. But yeah, it varies. And as far as how they impact the final product, it all just comes down to the idea, I would say, as long as you're able to communicate and kind of what Sam said with clarity, because it is a team sport. You can do a whole self-film by yourself, but it's a team sport. So if you're doing the animation, your Maya animation file needs to be able to be passed on to someone else so that they can just pop into it and pick up where you left off. If you're doing designs and something, your designs need to not only just be like a sketchy drawing and then just like, here you go, here's my napkin doodle. It can start that way, but you need to clearly lay out the character in a way that's readable, in a way that anyone can immediately look at the character and say, I understand exactly what you're saying. So
No, and that being said, before you go, Sam, I want to show the world that does not follow Adriel yet this Instagram. Wow, amazing. I saw Bob Bunny there. I saw
Oh,
Drake.
yes.
I saw so many people. I was like, oh, this man really, let me show everyone what this man can do.
Thank you.
Look at
Go,
this.
Adriel.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Appreciate it. So that's a combination of illustrations, concept art, paintings, doodles, art challenges for Inktober as well. Everything I can do to get my hand. There's Sam and I. Oh, a little cameo.
Artistic.
Spider-Verse.
Artistic.
Ooh, I see you, Sam.
And then everything that you're seeing right now that's not animation was primarily done in Procreate for iPad. So one of the things I cannot speak good enough about that app. I love that it's so portable. I love that it's so accessible. I worked for a brief period of time at Apple, and I would teach people actually how to draw in Procreate, just because anyone that has access to an iPad or an iPhone, you can take your ideas with you. And I absolutely love the versatility of the app. So
That's right. Go ahead, Sam.
Yes. So what softwares for 3D? My whole career has been built in Autodesk Maya, has been built on After Effects, and it has also been built in Nuke. So those are the main three. There are some subcategories that I jump into depending on who I'm working with, where I'm working with. So Substance Painter is one of them. Like knowing how to texture is very important as a lighter, because it affects how light behaves. So Substance Painter, and then something that all lighters can relate to me is that we're jumping into the Unreal Engine knowledge. So right now, Unreal Engine has been the hot stuff for us. So, and we're just waiting to see how the industry, the animation industry specifically, reacts to Unreal Engine. So that's been my journey so far.
Awesome. There is another follow-up question I want to make, but it's one of our questions, so I'm gonna keep that for that time. And I'm gonna continue with the next question. And this one, it's a little more deep. I want you guys to go deep into detail when it comes to this one. How do you approach the character design and development in your animations? For example, let's say you guys are hired and you guys are given just little characteristics. They have no idea what to do yet. They just have characteristics for this animation. How do you guys approach that?
Adriel.
So the word that comes to mind is humanizing. As I mentioned in the previous question, people gravitate towards films because they feel like an echo of their life. They gravitate towards the stories that they feel like, oh my goodness, my grandmother did that for me, or like, wow, they can empathize and sympathize with the character on screen. So when it comes to doing character designs, I tell people to humanize the character. So we have a list of attributes, right? We have a character that could be skittish, that could maybe let's do like a character that's anxious, and the movie is about them going to school for the first time, but then the school is like a magical school, or it's like a cyborg school, something like that. Like that's the twist of the story. You have the task of designing the character that's going to be skittish or that's going to be shy. What does that mean? Dig deep into yourself. What did that feeling feel like when you went to school and you were nervous or shy? Oh my goodness, I remember I had like my favorite hoodie from when I moved, and I was always so nervous that people were going to judge me. What if I gave this character like a little hoodie? What if my mom always like made sure that she gave me a kiss, she gave me like my lunchbox, etc., etc. So she was overbearing. What if I like make this kid have like a little note from his mom every single time? So adding details, adding things that people can see themselves in is just going to be a way to not only humanize the character, but another word that I like to use is create authenticity. So that is how we approach character design and development when it comes to animation. And that's for character design, when you're actually designing the character. And for animation, if you're tasked with animating a scene and you're like, okay, in this scene, same fake movie, Disney, but you're animating a scene, the character is coming into class for the first time, and your animation task is just get the character to walk down and sit down in a chair, but it's the character that's anxious and shy, etc. What does that look like? Be like, when I grew up, I thought it was cool if my shoes were untied, but what if I tripped on them or something? So maybe the character is walking, you don't necessarily see their shoes, but then at some point they're like, you add little nuances and details to where the viewers can see themselves. So, yeah.
That is something very important, that you can create a animation that people can relate to. That's very important. Go ahead, Sam.
Yes. So in my coaching sessions, we discuss a lot about visual associations. maybe I haven't phrased it like that, but now that I come to think about it, visual associations.
I like
So,
it.
for example, if you tell me that we design, you want to design an alien, and we as a society, we have associated a specific characteristics of an alien, and you come to me with a design that's not that is so unique that it doesn't look like an alien, there is no clarity once again, and it's not a so nobody will understand. So in design, it's very important is that we understand that it's visual communication. If the person comes from a specific region in the world, from a specific tribe, it has a specific history, you have to showcase. Obviously, there's a lot of people that show me designs, and they're like, "Hey, this is what it is." I'm like, "Show me, don't tell me." Most of the time, they're just telling me, but they're not showcasing it. So the best way to design when you are starting to design is to see what does society associate these ideas that I have. If it's an alien, or if it's a space warrior, like what does a space warrior look like to society, not to me, to society. And then you look on Pinterest, you look on ArtStation, you look on Google Images, and you put words like that, and you go like, oh, well, the pattern here is that a space warrior looks like this. Now that I know this, I will get myself to design, and I will do it according to visual associations.
Okay. Well, honestly, something I got to say about that. It sounds a lot of complicated things to build. That's why I stay in my comfort zone right here with my interviews and my film. But guys, I can't wait to see what else are you guys capable of, because so far what I've seen is amazing, and I know you guys are not done. So I just want everybody to go ahead and follow their pages. I'm not sure what it's some Pagan 10, right? On
Yes.
Instagram. Some Pagan 10 on Instagram. And can you tell us yours, Adriel Meka?
Mine is always very comical because it's one of those names that came in high school, but it is Arikusan Meka. Arikusan underscore Meka is my Instagram. And then I'm sure we'll have the links as well.
Can you
Yeah,
spell it?
don't worry about
Arikusan is
it.
AAREKUSAN underscore MEKA, like my last name.
Yeah, guys, I need you guys to go to their pages and please research and check on their work, because, hey, I need you guys to be calling them, hiring them, getting to know them, and put them out there, okay? That being said, let's go to our next question. Our next question is, what advice do you have for aspiring animators looking to improve their skills and grow in the industry?
I would say definitely be perspicacious in the sense of being aware of your surroundings. The animation industry is one that's ever changing. It has its own history and it has its own future, and no one knows where the future is going because the present is constantly changing. That didn't make sense, but it was poetic in a way. But yes, essentially, I tell people that are looking to improve their skills, always be aware of what is going on around you, regardless of the role that you're in. So if you want to be a storyboard artist, look at what the top storyboard artists are putting out. Find a role model, find something you can aspire to and emulate, find a way that they design, and then find a style that suits yourself, that complements their design. So always be aware of the standards in the industry. And then as far as growing in the industry, this is an industry that is built, like many, on relationships. So everyone can want to be the artist, everyone wants to be the director, everyone wants to be like that. But it's all about who you know and the relationships that you form in the industry, because we're all trying to move towards the same thing. As I mentioned prior to, it is a team sport. So doing things like this is amazing. Doing things like the meet and greet that Sam and I host, like going to things like Lightbox Expo and like CTN, just getting to meet all these people that are all just as passionate as you. You're going to find someone you can connect with and someone that you can build with. And hey, it could even be someone where they can give you a job in the industry. So always aspire to that. And I would always say as well, because it is an art job, it is very cyclical, the industry, but be very perseverant, I would say, regardless of what going on in the industry and in the environment. Always persevere, always work on your portfolio. Don't necessarily let everything get you down, and it's just going to be a matter of time.
Right. That being said, let me piggyback on that real quick. You said something very important. To keep practicing on your craft. You know, there's a saying that says practice makes perfection. I don't believe that one. I feel it's practice makes progress, because as you said, this is an industry that continuously keeps advancing and evolving. So keep practicing and keep making progress. You're going to get everything you want in life when it comes to your dreams if you put your mind to it and you don't give up. So go ahead, Sam.
Yes. So having been given already 317 sessions of education and 108 portfolio reviews last year, I have realized that the best way to improve your skills is through workshops. Why? Well, first off, there is a lot of people that are tempted to go for the self-taught route, and I understand from an economic standpoint, but I have saved so much pain having somebody just tell me how to solve this labyrinth. The way I see it, this is a labyrinth that has so many pathways to go, and if you just had somebody like telling you, hey, go left, now go right, then left, and there's the exit, then that is so much pain saving and time saving than anything else. So why workshops and not college, for example? Right now the world has changed. The world has changed, and it continues to change, and it speeds up so fast that there's no way that the education that you can get there gets to the speed that we need you to be at. And workshops are great because they're in a very small time frame. Second, for them to be profitable, they have to be of good quality, and they have to bring the latest tools. Because I've given so many classes, I have talked to many students where they are still in college, and we go through like, oh, what is it, what are you learning? And they're probably learning software that we were using in 2015. And I feel so bad about it because they're getting student debt, they're getting the worst techniques, the worst approaches, the worst ways to make themselves desirable in the market, and they don't even know it. So I've concluded after a whole year of educating, I was like, workshops, it is what it is. We who give online workshops, we who give online education, we have to be the best. An institution, not exactly. They can do the same thing, it will always sell. But us, unless it's not the latest technique, the best techniques, the best price for your time, it will not work, and we are incentivized to give the best. So my recommendation, get workshops.
Well, thank you for that. That is very important because I've heard so many people say, oh, going to college is a waste of time for something that it's already in you. You just got to keep working on it and stuff like that. Yeah, self-educating is good, but at the same time, it will be nice to have a group of people around you that can help you go in the right direction when you're unsure. And that's something you can get in workshops. So thank you for that. That's very important advice. Now, let's go to our next question. And here, before I go to this question, is there a way, Sam, that you can read us that post that you made yesterday? Because I want people to know what you said exactly so that you can answer that question real well.
All right, let me look for it. Give me 15 seconds, and I'll look for it. In the meantime, Adriel, distract them.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, just to piggyback off of the last conversation, I think one of the things to note is workshops are super solid, but also remember that everyone kind of has their own path. So I think a good mixture, a good kind of like splitting the difference of both, because I am someone that took more of an academic route than I did. Whoops. That's an alarm. I did like an undergrad in animation. I did a master's degree in animation, and both of them came at such great times. Like the pandemic started, and the world was basically ending, and all studios were shut, etc. And that was the time that I started off
Wow,
doing
yeah.
my master's at USC. And my master's at USC ended up doing like we had a career fair day, and the career fair we met a ton of industry professionals, and that's actually how I got my first job at Nickelodeon. And the connections I made at Nickelodeon helped me stay for 2 years. And then we had another career fair right before graduating, and that's what helped me get the job at Disney. So I think a mixture of both, that provides a space where people are all passionate about what they're doing, and if you are in an institution, it can actually kind of like promote because they have the connections that wouldn't necessarily be as accessible to you. But I also agree that something like a workshop is always amazing and it's always necessary because in the industry that is always changing and ever expanding, you need to stay on top of things. And the institution will only get you, but so far it's only going to lay out so much of the work. But I think of institution as being mostly theory, and then application is the real world. And the real world is, I think, where you need stuff like the workshops and the test and working on your portfolio and being aware of your surroundings. So a healthy mix of both, I say, is never harm.
100%.
For
All
sure.
right. So I
That's
think
great.
I think I found the post. You tell me if it's the one. Is it the one about fun?
Yeah, that one.
Perfect. So I'll read it. I wrote yesterday. I did not study animation in college for the intention of making money, and that's a problem. I did it because I loved it and found it fascinating. And why is that the problem? Because if you're in the mindset of doing animation only for the fun, you're going to give up easily when it's time to do the boring work. What is the boring work? Reaching out to people on LinkedIn, always updating your online presence, practicing your art fundamentals, emailing companies, asking for referrals. These are not fun tasks, yet it's the price to pay to make a living in the creative space. Once I learned that, I assured having fun in the long run. Do the boring work is the best strategy to get the fun.
Oh yeah.
With that being said, let's go to this question. How do you stay inspired and creative when working in a long-term animation project that can be boring?
Oh,
Hmm.
do I start?
Go for it. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. It's just expectations, setting realistic expectations. So, for example, what I'm doing with that post is just setting people to the right expectations. It's not the animation is not fun, or you shouldn't do it for the fun. It's that realistically speaking, if you want to, for example, climb the corporate ladder, direct your own movie, there's a lot of steps that are not fun. And I want you to have the expectation that you have to invest in this career, that you have to travel, that you have to take the courage and the guts to talk to somebody on LinkedIn that's superior to you, to being ignored, to being ghosted, to email a lot of companies, and those are the right expectations. So if you're in a long-term animation project, uh, and you wanna see how can you keep creative, it's like, okay, my expectation is that because this is long project is going to be hard. Those are my expectations. My expectation is that it's not going to be easy. It's what people respect, what is hard, and therefore if I'm investing time, I might not get the instant gratification now, but I will get it later. If you have that mindset and those expectations, I think you can stay inspired and stay creative in the long term.
That's right. That's
For
right.
for me, I'm going to go ahead and say that it's all about perspective. I think we are creatives, and in the creative space, it's our job to find creative solutions. So if you're trapped, I'll use the word trapped, in something that is boring and mundane in the long term, and you don't feel inspired, find a way to tweak it. I met Guillermo del Toro like 2 years ago. He came to give a talk at USC, and he provided an example. He was like, one of the movies that he hated completely was when he had to direct the film Mimic. He was like, the team was terrible. It's a long term thing, and he just hated it completely. And he said one of the things about it was he hated it, but he looked for any opportunity he had to have a learning opportunity, any opportunity he could to flip it and make it fun. It's the kind of thing where, life gives you lemons. What are you going to do? Make lemonade. So he was like, this project is, but editing, I'm a little rusty with editing. Let me see, let me tell them that I can take the responsibility of editing and let me get better at that. So I think any kind of a thing, even my first job at Nickelodeon, I'm an artist. I love art, and no knocking to production, but I did a production job, and I was sitting in meetings with art directors and watching them, like they were talking about designs and they were talking about art, and it was all passing in front of me, and my job was taking notes. So I was like, oh, but I made sure that I was very vocal about what I wanted. I said, I have the opportunity right now, like Del Toro, to direct a film. I have the opportunity right now to infiltrate a studio and learn as much as I can. So even though the job itself might not be my ideal, let me find any way that I can twist the narrative and learn. So they asked me, hey, you're going to be doing production. What are you interested? I said, I'm doing production, but I want to be an art director. I want to be a production designer. I want to be an artist. Okay. So we'll have you take notes, not on the writing, but we'll have you take notes on the art direction. Because of that, now I know amazing art directors and lead character designers at Nickelodeon that I can go and have lunch with all the time. I got to sit in and see the way that it works. So whenever I'm working on my project, like I just finished up my short film, I can say, okay, I have the knowledge of production, but the art directors ran their meetings like this. They communicated things like this. So I would say, always look at any opportunity as a learning opportunity. Always look at any opportunity as a way that you can better yourself and grow, and don't ever settle for the definition of being confined. There's always a way to break it and find a new perspective, I find. So yeah.
No, that is great. And to piggyback on what you both said, it's not just important to stay motivated and to find a way to tweak it to a way that you can find all of that creativity that you need in a moment that you feel trapped. But it's also about, like you just said, you just have an opportunity. Make the best out of it so that you can make that impact, because that impact is going to speak for you later on. So yeah, I agree completely with what you guys said. Let's go to our next question. Question number 6. Can you share any behind the scenes stories or challenges you faced while working on animated films? Just make sure your NDAs are expired.
Sam, you want to take it away?
Well, I'm not gonna lie, I have to think. Can I share a behind the scenes story or challenge you faced while working on animated films? Yes, I can tell you something that I think a lot of people can relate. Yes, I can tell something. Yeah. So you have always heard, oh, communications is important. And everybody it's a buzzword. Like a lot of people say it, but they don't know what it means. And one of the biggest struggles that I've had in multiple places is that, for example, let's say the director told me, hey, Sam, can you, the lighting looks too bright. Can you reduce it at 30%? And I go like, sure. And I do that. And then 2 weeks later, we're in a review, and he like tilts his head. He goes like, "Why does it look so opaque?" And then that's where the communication goes off, because I understand him from his role, somebody who has so many things going on. It's very difficult to track what you said to everybody. So something that they usually do and makes the artist or the employee feel a little bit bad and confused is that Sam, so that's too opaque. And then they'll make it seem like it was your choice. And I'm like, that was your choice. So that's a behind the scene. And the way to fix it, I found a way to fix it. The way to fix it, if I was a director and to make the employee or the artist, feel good because he's just following instructions. And there might be, and to save communication mistakes, it's like, this shot looks opaque. Can you remind me what was the last thing that we said about this shot? And that question alone saves so much pain, because then the artist goes and says, oh yes, so last time, like 2 weeks ago, you said to reduce it 30%. And I, as a director, will go like, right, I said that, even though I don't remember. I don't remember that I said that. But there's evidence, there's notes, or I can ask the artist, go like, the person's telling me that I made that decision. And that way, your ego is not destroyed as a director. You do not destroy the person who's following orders, and there is clarity of what happened. So something that happens behind the scenes very, very often is that there's a big confusion between the feedback that the director gives versus the whole team. And there's an inside joke, and even like, he said 30%, like what he's talking about, and confuses people. And there's like a whole, almost like a joke. It's like, this guy, he's not coherent. And the only way I have found to fix this problem is a director says, well, can you remind me? What was the last thing we said about this? And that way you save, your ego is not destroyed, nobody is destroyed. We're just focusing on the product. And I think that's the best thing you can do.
Communication at its finest. Yes, sir.
I think I'm gonna probably piggyback off of the same theme, but from a different angle. Disney and Nickelodeon. I think the experiences there are generally pretty positive. However, I will say recently I mentioned that I directed actually my first short film, Camp Kona. It's like basically the way I could describe it is a Stranger Things meets How to Train Your Dragon at a summer camp. So it's like 80s retro monster movie with kids at a summer camp, and we're currently in our film festival run. And I had the experience of production at Nickelodeon, had the experience of kind of like how the industry works and how a pipeline works. But what I experienced was the importance of communication. The challenge I experienced is I was like, okay, I want to make a film. We have a year to make it, and I want to do it right. People can either make the film completely by themselves in a silo, or they can extend the opportunity for other artists to join and build a team. So I was in a position where up until then, I'd worked at different studios, different companies, with different people, but I was so used to just everything existing in my head. Everything like, well, yeah, like, it just looks like this. Like, oh, here, let me just do it for you. It's just this. So I learned the importance of needing to communicate your idea to a team member, because in a way, when you're directing a team, you're hiring animators, you're hiring illustrators, you're hiring etc. And especially in the institution that I learned, that I studied in, they raise you to be like a filmmaker. So you kind of have your hand on every single basket, and it can be easy at times to be like, I need the character design, I'll just do it. I need the animation, I'll just do it, etc. But you're going to save yourself a lot of headaches when you start delegating work and things of that nature. So what I learned is the ability to have ease with relinquishing responsibility, and just the importance of feedback, of clarity and communication. So although it might, I had to wrestle with that feeling of like, I need someone to animate a shot of a hand moving. The hand needs to, I know exactly what it looks like. I feel like I have to make an entire chart that explains that I want my hands to look like this. They're going to look a little bit like Milo Thats from Atlantis, etc. Like, I had the whole art direction in my mind. I was like, they're going to look like this. And I had to sit there, and it felt like I was taking one step backwards just to get 3 steps forward. But I had to make a whole sheet that was like, draw the hand like this for my animator. But finally, once I did, it helped the animator feel like that I trusted them with that responsibility, so they felt empowered. It gave me, like I said, I did take 1 step backward in my mind, but I was able to launch myself 2 steps forward or 3 steps forward. So in general, it's all moving towards that goal. And I understood the importance of being that director that's like, 30% more, 30% brighter. You do need to make sure that you're creating a positive space where people feel like they can do their job, and you do need to be able to communicate, be able to be effective, and understand that while it is nice to be able to have your hands on multiple baskets, knowing what they can do helps you speak the language. But like, they're all doing the same thing you are. Essentially, they're doing their role and they're trying to excel in their role. So you need to make sure that you're aware of that. So yeah.
Yeah, that being said, let me tell you something. There is a difference between being a boss and a leader. And I think you just have described a leader. Yeah, he gave you some instructions, but as soon as he saw that you reciprocated, he said, "Okay, this is a person I can trust. I can grow with them." That is what a leader is made of. Someone that will give you that opportunity to exceed your expectations and their expectations without any rivalry or any bad mouthing or backbiting or anything like that. So I'm really happy that you guys have had those type of experiences, bad or good. They all molded the professionals you guys are today. So that being said, let's go to our next question. Question number 7. What do you think sets Disney and Nickelodeon animations apart from other studios? And how do you ensure that your work stands out in the industry?
Wow, those are two profound questions. Well, let's tackle one by one. So, what sets Disney and Nickelodeon apart from other studios? Uh, Branding, reputation, basically. Um, if corporations have been existing for more than 30 years, evidently they have the biggest advantage over everyone. Also, if they were the first ones to do anything, whoever does the first thing has a better impression on society. So because they were pioneers in their time, then we still see the results later. So obviously, the longevity that they've been in the market is what makes them apart from other studios. Um, evidently, there has been other countries like Japan that has integrated also for many decades, contributed to the animation space, and there's a great difference between Western animation and anime, and we are seeing who's gonna last longer. So I am eager to see like what's gonna happen in the next decade or two. But if there's anything to admire from the anime world, is that they are very experimental, that um, they're not afraid of doing things that haven't been done before. And I think if I
Yeah,
had to
with bucks. Mm.
if I had to suggest anything to Western corporations, is that look at your competition, and look at your competition where um, they are exploring and they're giving authentic content. So let's up our game. And then the second part of the question is, how do you ensure that your work stands out in the industry? That is a multivariable equation, meaning like it takes a lot of layers. For example, one of them can be the way you present yourself, your personality, your attitude. Uh, if you ask yourself like, oh, if I wanted to go to Nickelodeon and Disney, like, does the interview matter? And the answer is yes. Like if you put Sam or Adriel, so, in my opinion, and this is not a brag or anything, but people who are verbally competent, and we have and you have a deficiency in that, then we have a layer that makes us stands out. So what I suggest to artists that want to stand out is like, look at your competition. If you see that people that are like Adriel and I that are in the industry, we're also going to be there competing for that seat. And if you see that we have verbal competence, I would be very focused on that. Let's say that you don't have verbal competence, then you have to compensate with other layers. It could be reputation because of your art style. It could be because of your um, because of the longevity that you've been here. What else? Social media presence does matter. Also, being in the right time in the right place also matters.
Mhm.
It's a multivariable equation. So, if you want to stand out, work your portfolio to become desirable, work on your verbal skills, work on your networking. And I think if you have those three at least, you can stand out for sure.
I completely agree. Yeah, I completely agree. Let's see. As far as like answering the question for the first part of it, what do I think sets Nickelodeon and Disney Animations apart from the other studios? Sam kind of hit the nail on the head. I think it's just the reputation that they have. I think they're established. I think that people treat them as the gold star, or the North Star, or like the golden standard and the North Star at the same time. You know, you hear so many people in my school and so many people, excuse me, in my school that I'm losing my words. Forgive me. You see a lot of people that are in the industry that tell you, I want to work at Disney. I want to work at Nickelodeon. I grew up on Disney movies. I grew up watching Nickelodeon animation and things of that nature. And because they have such a big reputation, I feel like they foster a good amount of excuse me, I'm completely losing my words. To recenter on that, another thing about it is actually the studio themselves. I was going to say, because they have a good reputation, they've been established for so many years, they actually get the chance to have the money. The money creates amazing facilities. The Nickelodeon studio in Burbank and the Disney studio, both in Burbank and in Glendale, are extremely amazing studios. You could tell that everyone that's in there that actually wants to get a job there and wants to work there, everyone is extremely positive. They have their selectiveness when it comes to interviewing, where they hire a lot of people that are passionate, positive, and professionals. So you know that you're getting into Nickelodeon. All the people that I joined and talked to in Nickelodeon, they basically wanted me to, they asked me like what I wanted to do. They asked me about my goals and my aspirations, and they wanted to help foster that growth within the studio. They wanted to not necessarily have the perspective of what can you do for Disney, this big company, or what can you do for Nickelodeon, this huge entity. They were like, what can Nickelodeon do for you? In the interviewing process, I tell everyone, like, you always come into an interview and you're just like, oh my God, like, will they even like me, etc. If you already got the interview, there's a chance that they see potential in you, so you're already pre-vetted, and it is your job, and this will segue us into the next question as far as like how we actually stand out. It is your job to show them that you're a great candidate to work with. So I agree with Sam. There are many multi-layers and multi-facets of it. I think if you have a great portfolio, work is always work. You know, you could have someone that has scratchy doodles and a great personality. They're not going to get hired. But at the same time, you could have someone that has the best work that you've ever seen, but they have a temper, or they don't have the communication skills. They're not going to get hired either. So the work is what's going to get you the interview and what's going to get you in front of the people. And the next step of that is letting your personality take over. And I always tell people, when you're in an interview setting, always go for a personal angle. Always try to connect with people. Treat it, I hate to say like at a party, but like treat it as if you meet them at a party. You know, like you're trying to connect, you're trying to find ways. In a way, I also say interviews are kind of like dating. You're trying to find ways for you guys to be able to connect. And at the same time, you're going into the interview, and all you should really be focused about is, if I get this job / when I get this job, I'm going to be seeing my interviewer in the workplace. I'm going to be seeing the team that I'm talking to in the workplace. So really what they want to know is, work aside, if I had a cubicle right next to you, what kind of conversations would we be having? How would our vibe go? How would our interactions be going? And if you try to make sure that you work on A, your work, of course, and B, just your social ability and your interpersonal skills, your soft skills are so important. Both of those things will work together to create a great, to help you stand out. And then outside of that, you know, obviously visibility, and on all facets of visibility, as far as how you can get your work and web presence, as far as, oh, sorry, I'm looking at a question. Yeah, as far as how you can get your web presence, as far as when you go to events and networking functions, you know, how many people you can meet and things like that. All those things just serve to help you, and timing is also a big factor. Like if the pandemic didn't happen and I didn't go to grad school, I wouldn't have gotten Disney. So many things are layers. So trust the process and make sure that you put your best foot forward for it.
That's excellent. That being said, someone just asked us something about AI, which is funny because that's my next question.
Ah,
So let's go to that. What are ways in which animators could integrate AI in their craft without taking away from the creative process? Or how can it be implemented in a positive way?
Right. So right now we're going through a technological revolution, and the news have been and the news and the headlines have been enjoying the attention of putting AI wherever. and and AI will definitely impact every industry. However, you have to pick it from with a grain of salt. Like, how does that affect specifically, for example, the arts? One thing is, oh, how's AI going to affect uh, censorship in society, or how AI is going to affect the safety of your image on YouTube and stuff like that. But what news headlines will love to do is to mix and mingle all those negative associations to everything. Therefore, your world is doomed. And they love putting you into fear, because if they put you in a fear mindset, they control you. They control your salary, for example. If for example, in the future, I can see it's like, hey, we love your work, can you work for us? And suddenly you start working for them, and maybe they will be, bad intention and say, hey, we're paying you little and we can't pay you anymore, but be grateful that you're not being replaced, we're giving you a job. And I can see those arguments happening in a very small businesses and marketing agencies and stuff like that. And I really dislike that. I really dislike how people like to control other people with fear. So if that's the case, we have to be specific. How is that going to affect in our role in a specific company, in a specific industry? We cannot mingle everything. So let's talk about that. The arts is visual communication. Does that mean that if I let me go back? The arts is visual communication, and we have had the misconception as a society that art is just pretty pictures, and pretty pictures is what sells. And you're right in some extent. Like, pretty pictures, it is the selling point. When you see a trailer and you see really good, visuals, it incites you to come and purchase that ticket and go to the theater.
Mhm.
But if the content of the film is trash, then you end up being disappointed. And then it doesn't matter how much CGI, how much work you did, is valueless and pointless. Same thing with what people are speculating about AI, which is, oh, these people are gonna press a button and art will be printed and everybody will love it and everybody will pay for it. Yes, it will print pretty pictures, but it's how you use the tool and what you communicate what really people enjoy. So, how will AI affect our craft? It will most likely, obviously, I cannot predict everything because nobody knows everything, but it will be associated to it will be a tool that will be integrated in our pipeline. But as artists, we have to make it seem that is hard to get there from a technical standpoint. Like, this is high quality, crafted, crafted by hand, because that's what the art community loves. And if we are crafting products for our community, people are not going to respect things that come easy. That's just period. Doesn't matter if you can prompt professionally, you can bring images quickly, but the idea that when people learn that you just did everything in the most easiest way, you lose respect. So I understand that these films are honored and are admired because they're hard to make. So that will never change. And if it's going to be integrated, they're going to, the artists that are there, that are hard workers, that are people that can put really good intention and really good content into pretty images, they're gonna level it up, and you cannot even match that. So that's the only thing I can predict.
My line of thinking of it is, obviously I'm not not this old, but you had when 2D animation was a thing and it was major, and then 3D animation came and swept everything off its feet. So as far as that being goes, everyone was like very nervous, everyone was nerve-wracked, everyone was scared. Oh my god, it's coming from my job. Fear was a component. And the way that I treat it is kind of like having the analogy, you're on a bicycle right now and you're treating AI as, oh my god, I hear this roaring noise, let me turn around and look, what is it? It's a Ferrari that's coming at 100 miles an hour, and it's just going to completely obliterate me and throw me off to the side. And I think that you need to adopt the mentality of thinking of, it's just a tool. So instead of it being a Ferrari, it's a tiny little motorbike. It is a tool. What if instead of you, I'm getting thrown to the side, I'm completely obliterated, I'm obsolete now. You can hook a little rope to the back of the Ferrari and let it pull you. For using that metaphor, use it as a tool. Use it to accelerate your skills. Is my thing. Where I use the metaphor as it being a Ferrari, it is going to happen regardless. Early adopters are very excited about it. People are finding ways, as Sam said with the media, to implement it into every facet of your life. Oh my God, I need to wake up. What if AI opened up my blinds? What if AI, it is going to exist, and we are going to have to live with it. And you could either live with it in fear, or you can learn to help it. You can learn to basically make it work for you. So that being said, going back to the example I provided of 2D animators, you had a ton of 2D animators that had a massive reputation in the field. Glenn Keane, things of that nature. Glenn Keane, James Baxter, etc. A lot of people that are huge names in the industry, in the 2D space specifically. When 3D came, they didn't let that stop them. You can still look at movies nowadays, even Eric Goldberg as well. You can still look at movies nowadays like Frozen. If you look at the behind the scenes of Frozen, or the short that just came out a while ago, One Small Step by Bobby Pontius and Andrew Tremsworth, they have a 3D short. However, people are still doing 2D drawovers. That skill is not lost. It's not completely gone and decrepit in the wind. So as far as the initial part of the question, it's just kind of like, how can you use it to benefit yourself? It depends on what you're doing. You can have it take the bulk of all that boring work that Sam was talking about. If you want to be a person that focuses 100% on your craft, the layer can be as shallow as, hey, I just want AI to sort through all my emails. Honestly, only prioritize my emails that are about client work, only prioritize my emails that are about potential job. And so I don't have to be the one that's clicking there. Let me use it as the minutest version of AI being integrated into your workflow. On a second hand of it, if you're a character designer, I hear that there's a way now that you can take your 2D designs and actually use AI to make a 3D model. So if you're someone that's focused 100% on the 2D skills, and I've experienced some stuff where I'm like, oh no, I'm a 2D artist, but like Sam said, Unreal is becoming a thing. Everyone is going towards 3D. Everyone's trying to achieve 2.5D looks. But what if I'm like the best character designer ever? I'm not, but I designed this character that's really compelling. I really like it. I can do a turnaround of the character, and I know the way that it looks. And you could just use an AI tool to turn that 2D sketch into a 3D model. And that way you can communicate it to someone where it's like, look, what if we made a Spider-Verse, and what if it looked like this? And instead of having to use your imagination, you just say, this is my sketch. AI made it a 3D model. Here's how you can communicate it, and you can help communicate your idea even more effectively. And that is an example of you using it as a tool. That Ferrari is not blowing you out of the water. It is enhancing and enabling, and you are showing that Ferrari that
you're right in it.
Yeah, you're leading. Yeah, you're leading. So same thing that I mentioned when it comes to opportunities prior to use any challenge as an opportunity. Use anyway, find a way that you can integrate it, look into it. I'll look into stuff. I know 3D artists now with rigging, you know, maybe someone loves 3D animation, but they hate the rigging and technical side of it. And they're just like, oh, I have this amazing 3D model. My favorite artist took a design and made it a 3D sculpt, and I want to be able to animate that one. But I don't want to rig it. I don't know how to rig it. Now you have AI tools that can do auto rigging for you. So you have the 3D model, you could do it, and you could focus on what you want to do. It is a tool that gives you back your time. And I would say leverage that time that you now have gained back to do more of what you love. Yes.
Amazing.
Well, with that, I wanted to piggyback on what you both said. I have my own, I'm actively studying with IBM AI and stuff like that. And we call it augmented intelligence. Like Adriel's, what Adriel said, it's something that we use as a tool because ultimately AI cannot work without us. We created AI. What makes anybody think that AI can work by itself unless another human puts that power in it? But why would we do that? We made all those greatest inventions. Why would we give it that much power to take away what we've done? So I agree with Sam with what you said, because I have it all over my timeline in Facebook. People are very worried about AI and stuff like that, but AI is a tool. It's something that you use. Let me give you an example. Before we started this live, my daughter came out and she was like, well, I got a little bored doing this animation, so I used AI to create most of it. And I was like, you can't do that. And she's like, oh, what do you mean? Well, it's a tool, it's working. And he's like, yeah, but you use it to enhance what you created. You don't use it to create, because it takes away the creativity and the process of brainstorming on something great that you want to show the world. It stops being original when you make the machine do it for you. So I want you to sit down. I don't care how many hours you have to spend on that, but when you're done, you use AI to do a little shading on the sides, maybe the shadows, superficial embellishments on your art, but the creation part that has to come from you to make it original, to make it valuable, just like Sam said. So I do agree with both your takes. Yes, it is a tool, but it's not meant to be used from the scratch. You are the mastermind of your art. So do your art and use it as a tool, because there's a lot of people, for example, that don't have the resources to pay people to do some lighting or some 3D stuff or whatnot. So they do the initial draft and then say, well, I have the money for this type of professional and I'm going to use him, but I don't have enough for this other one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to integrate AI in this area so that I can complete the job without being broke, ending up broke. And at the same time, I still bring up that beautiful art. So yeah, both of you are excellent in your mindsets. Yes, it's not something we should fear. For the love of God, please don't fear it. We made it. We made it. So let's just keep enhancing our understanding and our indulgement when it comes to making it part of our art. I'm not even sure if indulgement is a word. I'm sorry. My first language is Spanish, so we're winging words here. We're winging it. So that being said, let's go to our next question. Question number 9, jobs. What would be the best way for upcoming animators to find jobs to get hired by highly on-demand companies?
I'll let Adriel start this time.
What could be the way for them to find? Okay, so I would say biggest thing that you could do is obviously starting with yourself. Work on your craft. Work on your craft, because recruiters constantly tell me that they are looking at Instagram. They're looking at every place that you could put your work. They're looking at LinkedIn, etc. LinkedIn, I love it because it has a grapevine effect where you post something small. You could post a little doodle that you really worked and spent 8 hours on, and then no one in your network likes it, but one person that's your teacher likes it, and then they know someone at this studio, and the next thing you know, you have a recruiter from who knows Titmouse that's just like, hey, I saw this sketch on LinkedIn. I would love to chat with you a little bit more about your work. So getting your work out there is very, very crucial and very important, because the more leads you throw out there, the more energy you put out there, the better chance you have of something coming back. And we've already talked about the importance of self-improvement and workshops and things of that nature. I think that's just starting with your whole self, as far as making sure that you master, or you attempt to master and make progress on a skill. That could be storyboarding, lighting, compositing, anything from that degree. When it comes to actually getting the job, obviously you have applications. Online applications have their own pros and cons. In-person applications have their own pros and cons. I don't think, unlike the 90s, I don't think anyone's running around giving recruiters their resume, just like, hey, knocking on studio doors, here's my resume. So that being said, you really do want to, like Sam was talking about, like talk to recruiters. You want to try to message them on LinkedIn. You want to try to get your stuff and get your intent out there, because even if someone sees your work, they could just look at it and be like, oh, like cool doodle, but no one knows unless you communicate, hey, my goal is I want to be a production designer for a studio. That's one thing. Another thing is also managing expectations. Everyone goes in there being like, I want to be the next Walt Disney. I want to be the next person that directs this huge film. And I've had countless people tell me, yeah, you can, but you're not going to do it off the bat. Like, you're not going to do it right after graduating. You're not going to do it tomorrow. So take the steps, understand that it's a process. Even all the people that you respect, all the people that are huge monsters, not all monsters, like I should say beasts in the industry, they will always tell you maybe their path wasn't 100% straight, but it brought them from point A to B, and what brings them where they are is the journey that they took. So let me bring it back to the actual question, as far as from a technicality perspective. I think we already talked about working on yourself. We talked about making sure you put your work out there, making sure you connect. We've discussed numerous times the importance of expos. Sam and I met at an expo. We've talked about this at our meet and greet event, but Sam and I met at Lightbox. We did not know I think we were at Nickelodeon probably at the same time, and we just didn't ever meet each other.
What?
Yeah, because he was on Rugrats, and then I was on Monster High, and I was on oh my god, Bubble Guppies, and we constantly, like, Monster High, because it was a 3D show. I don't know if I could say this. Well, we have a pool of 3D resources, and I saw Rugrats numerous times. So yeah. I mean, that being said, we met at Lightbox because we were both just there at the same time. He was at the Nickelodeon booth, and I had just popped out of Nickelodeon. I was like, hey, let me check out and see who's here, and then look at what we've been able to build just through that. We talked about our love of Bad Bunny, which has been an inside joke for the longest time, and our love of salsa dancing and artist and professionalism mixed with artistry and creativity. And yeah, like, look at where we are able to go now, and I don't think that we have any plans of stopping. So another thing about it, I would say, is like, you do have the conventional routes of jobs. You have, like, getting a job in the industry, but be open-minded. Jobs can look like many different things. It can be contract work, it can be industry work, it can be working on small films, it can be making your own thing. It could even be the fact that Sam and I feel fulfilled, like he and I can do our own artistic things on the side, and then we can feel fulfilled and have a job doing talks and workshops and, like, putting our stuff out there and connecting with people and creating a space for other people to connect. So the animation industry is so multifaceted. I think what's most important is that you try to be a part of it, and that, I always tell people it does feel like the cool kids table at lunch, because everyone here is so passionate, so happy about what they're doing. So yeah. Hopefully I answered the question, a little nuanced, but yeah, I think that's the main points I have.
Great answers.
Thank you, and likewise.
Yeah. So, just like Adriel said, there's many avenues: job postings, networking, online presence. Those are the top 3, and I think most people underestimate the networking and the online presence, because the most obvious one is the job postings. And I will only give you my take on things from a personal perspective. I dedicate myself to pattern recognition, meaning that, for example, if I am at a networking event and I know that everybody will be dressed as suits, how can I break the pattern so that I can subtly stand out. Everyone has a little glimpse of, they pay me at least a little bit of attention, and that little tweak can bring me opportunities to connect and become memorable in all the audience. That change, for example, is a real change that I did in my networking events with this hat. I was going to a networking event and I knew that everybody was entrepreneurs and they were going to be just suited up. And I was like, well, that's the pattern. I preach a lot about pattern recognition, so I shouldn't line up just like everyone else. So I decided to use this hat, which in shape and in color can just makes the eye just pivot towards me. And that is a very, by the way, that's a very artist approach, because when you are doing a canvas, when you're doing a composition, you want to find those elements where you can focus the people's attention into something. So I'm just taking that concept, but in real life. So I'm always focusing on pattern recognition, see where I'm going to be at, what can I do about it. So going back to the job postings, if you're gonna do a job, if you're gonna apply to jobs, what's the pattern there? How do everybody apply? And what's that little tweak that you can do that most people don't do? And if you're going to ask me, oh, Sam, but how do you do that? That's your job. That's your creative job. Is it putting a butterfly in the resume? I don't know. I don't know. There's not a formula. There's not a one thing. But in your instincts as an artist, you got to be like, there's a pattern here. They obviously expect this. How can I break expectations? So if you're going to play the job postings, you have to break expectations. Number one. Number two, if you're going to do networking, the cool thing about networking is that nobody does it. In the sense that nobody expects, for example, on LinkedIn, and this is something that I preach and that I do on my day-to-day, nobody expects to keep up a conversation after you add them on LinkedIn. Like typically what's expected is, hi, thank you for connecting with me. Of course, done. That's the expectation. And I go like, well, that's the pattern. That what can I do different? And obviously, another pattern that everybody does in LinkedIn is that they try to pitch or sell or manipulate to others. And I have a whole seminar and a whole talk about this, but people don't like to be sold and people don't like to be used. So I have a way where I have tweaked that and changed the pattern. And instead of focusing on me of what I want, it's like, what would this person want? And if I have to guess, I have to analyze their profile. I have to see like, what could I say so that this person sees the pattern recognition? It's like, this guy went to my portfolio and mentioned the hard work that I did in piece number 7. He's different. All right, I'm going to engage. And that little tweak can make the difference between no conversation to a whole conversation. So let's go back. Job postings, pattern recognition, networking, pattern recognition, and then, online presence. Those who have gotten from out of college, there's a pattern. It's a website. They all look the same. They all have the same character sheets. They all have whatever. Everyone is uniformed. What can you tweak that makes you stand out of the rest? And I'll tell you a real story and I'll wrap the question with this. There was this guy, I think his name is pronounced Dung Ho. I'm not sure, but I think that's how you pronounce it. And he just like 6 months ago or 8 months ago. I cannot track time. Maybe a year ago, he got hired by Pixar, and he's still there. And he went through the interview process. He gave his portfolio, and suddenly an interview, and suddenly he was hired. And once he was inside, he's like, what worked? Like, why was I hired? Was it the character acting that I did? And they honestly said, no, the character acting was terrible. And he's like, what? Yeah, like that's not why we hired you. It's like, what was it? It's like your passion project. He has a project of octopus that he spent. I know this because I was a witness. He asked me for some coaching for lighting, and he made a tremendous job in this short film that took him like 9 to 10 months. And that made him stand out of everybody. And that's why Pixar said, this is something that we have never seen before. Boom, pattern recognition. They can see that you're different. So how do you start recognizing patterns? You have to compare yourselves with everybody else. You have to take all the portfolios from everybody, see like, oh, Adriel's, for example, successful people. Adriel portfolio, Ida, any name that I'm right now blanking, but any name from 2D artist, you rank them up and you see like what's expected of this, what's the quality, is it story, is it the way they clearly break down the character designs, is it the depth? And then you're like, well, if this is the standard and there's this college kids still being taught 2015 techniques and stuff like that, I'm gonna compare myself with the successful people and see what I can bring to the table. And suddenly that strategy alone can get you a job.
Sam, the last thing I just want to add as well is the importance of reputation. I think one thing that is something that goes unsaid. In the animation industry, you're going to be working with a lot of people frequently. Like you'll have someone, I know someone already actually from Nickelodeon that worked with me on Monster High. And then he was on Proud Family when I was at Disney TVA as well, working on Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. So people are going to follow you. People are going to mix and mingle. You're going to see the same group of people in very different settings. And I think that especially going back to what we were talking about when we said building relationships, your reputation, for better or for worse, is going to follow you throughout the entire career. So I think you need to put in the effort as far as standing out to make sure that you're a stand-up person, you're the best version of yourself, even though we're all growing and we're all works in progress. But make sure that you're really fostering those relationships, that you're putting your best foot forward, and make sure that every step of the way with people that you meet, whether you're starting off and you're in high school, whether you're in college and meeting people, whether you didn't do any of that and you're just kind of like going to mixers and networking events, etc., you're going to see these people often because we're all pushing towards the same goal. So make sure that you foster and you tend to your reputation and you try to make sure you have a good one. Make sure, I never thought that in 2024 I'd be quoting Dwayne Johnson, but he said once, people will never necessarily remember what you say, but they will always remember how you make them feel. So make sure that you're always making people feel positive. You're always making people feel like you have your stuff together and they can trust you with a task and they can trust you that you got it. So yeah, I would say those two things: your reputation and then building your relationships. Yeah, I just wanted to add those 2 cents.
Talking about that, that is so important, the building connection part, because I'll tell you something. When I started this company, I started it because I wanted people to have a space where they can express themselves freely when it comes to their art. And hey, come here, give advice, collaborate, meet people that have your same mindset, that have that passion that you have. Because I can stress how many times we can go to mixers and there's so many personalities, and it's so difficult to find who have the best intentions in mind, not just for your job, but for their job. Because if they want to win, that means if you work with them, you're winning with them. So that is very important. And I really commend everyone that takes the time, and because I know that socializing sometimes it's a drag. Not everybody wants to really sit down for hours and talk about unrelated stuff when you really already have a plan that of something that you want to do. But harvesting a beautiful connection with someone can go so long when it comes to your career. Look at you guys. You guys didn't even know each other and worked at the same place. And then you guys met and you guys are collaborating. That is so beautiful. That is an art in itself. And I really try to stress that out to people. Hey, connections are very important. How you guys relate to the people that you work with, how you guys understand the other person's point of view when it comes to the creative process. When you guys connect, and you guys really strive for greatness together, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful the growth we can see from there.
Absolutely.
So that being said, let's go to our last question. This is not a question, but it's more like something for you guys to tell the audience. Tell us 3 tips that are essential for the craft and journey of the animator.
Cool. I think it's going to be like a summary of the stuff we've said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always say that I say 2 important things. I guess I got to add a third one. Well, I can add it. Okay, so I always say there's 2 things that you need to get a job: skills and networking. Those are the 2 essential skills. One cannot live without the other. For example, you can be the most amazing, talented artist, but if you live in the rural parts of Puerto Rico and you have no online presence and you never talk to anybody, you cannot sell, because the whole point of selling is that people have to see your product, and your product has to be desired, or your service, and it will be purchased. So you can have gold, but if nobody knows about you, you cannot sell gold. Let's spin that around. Everybody knows you, but you have no skills. Like, you're just famous, but you don't have art skills. Then we cannot do anything for you. Like, you have the right connections, you cannot work for us because you don't have the skills. So it is both. And the third one, I guess I'm gonna steal it from somebody I just read a post from, but I guess that's the only thing that comes to mind. The third essential skill is to be at the right place at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
And like, how do you control that? It's like, you show up all the time, every day, and
show up.
You show up. You know how many people? I'm not gonna discredit universities, but I have to tell you the pattern. But you know how much percentage of people go to the art schools and they just stand outside of the classroom? Well, while I was inside of the classroom taking storyboard classes or 3D classes and stuff, like, their parents would drive them to the plaza of my university, and I will look out the window and go like, he's supposed to be here, but maybe he's just spending time with his friends. Maybe he's playing like video games, and I'm like, you just had to show up. You're like one story away. Away, because I was like in a second floor. You're one story away to being here. Like, you just woke up early at 6 a.m. Like, they forced you to come here, and now you're just socializing in the plaza. So yeah.
Wow, sorry to cut you off there, but that's profound what you just said right now. Like, you're in the class getting all this knowledge, you look out the window, and you see your mates outside doing nothing related to what you guys are supposed to be doing, and saying that, bro, you are one story away from your future. And that's what you prefer to do. Wow, that's profound. Continue.
Yeah, and it's unfortunately like it, and I don't know about Adriel's experience. Obviously, my school is not as prestigious as his school, but my experience was that most people were just aimless. and just by that alone, I remember that just pushed me harder because I was a little bit angry at that time. I was like, these people don't understand the opportunity that's there, and I'm just gonna do my best. I'm gonna showcase that with hard work, you can really get results.
And
And
you're doing
and only like 5% of 10% of people that go into the art schools that are common. Obviously, I'm not talking about the elites art schools, but the reality of it. And now that I have taught for 317 classes this last year and talked to so many people that study in many type of different universities, I can tell you that like 90% of whoever studies animation doesn't make it, and one of them is that they never show up.
Dang. Let's see if I could follow up with follow that up. Let's see.
Yeah, that stressed me out, bro. That stressed me out.
I'm here in the field. I'm here with the people. That's why I can tell you, because I'm here with the people teaching. I can tell you that there's a lot of people that they just don't show up.
Yeah. So, I mean, 3 tips as far as how we discussed, without having to reiterate some of the stuff that we said. I think the main thing is just like, remember that you're a creative through and through. You're a creative in the sense that you're solving problems and you're trying to find creative solutions. So as we discussed already, treat any and all opportunities as an opportunity for you. Like, you could talk to someone and they could want you to do something that's completely left field, but just like I gave the example of Del Toro, find a way to work yourself back into it. Find your way. Like, the path is never a straight one. Even for me, like I talked about it in some of our lectures, but animation was not always my first thing. Like, I wanted to be an industrial designer because I like drawing and I like technology, and I wanted to design cars and design products and stuff. And I pivoted because of something. Big Hero 6, they were showing the behind the scenes of Big Hero 6 at SCAD, and I felt so inspired that I pivoted and did that. So always this, like, the path of everyone is always different. Don't necessarily compare yourself to everyone, because you never know what someone is going through. Just focus on your path and focusing on, as Sam said, showing up, being present, putting in your all at every step of the way. Also trust the process. I mean, we talked about challenges. Another challenge I had, I was looking at that school. I was looking at like grad schools and stuff, so I could. Let me formulate that story. I did undergrad, and after I graduated from undergrad, I had no jobs. I was like, I just prepared myself for this. I had my character design, I had my portfolio. Why is Disney not knocking on my door? Why is no one coming to hire me, etc.? And I had the 2-year-long period where I was like working retail, and I was just kind of like, well, what do I do? And my thought process behind going into grad school is get a little bit of experience and then go to grad school to have a competitive advantage and re-enter it. And initially, I was going to go to Paris College of Art and Design. I had gotten accepted. They gave me my letter, etc., and they were just starting off their program. And I had like a plane ticket to go to Paris, etc. But they told me last minute, they were just kind of like, hey, we didn't have enough people signing up for the program, so we're actually going to cancel it. And you have a guaranteed yes for the following year, and I was like, what about my ticket? Like, what about my ticket? What?
Right.
Like, what?
What about all my sacrifice to come here and make it a possibility?
Exactly. And if I had given up at that point, I would have completely pivoted. I would have gone backwards, and I would not have been where I am today. So trusting the process is one thing. Like, it goes into being adaptable and pivoting. That's kind of the general theme of what I'm saying. Because of that, I had a whole year. I was like, I was in Georgia at the time. Let me move back home to Montreal. Let me have a new, fresh take, so I'll be inspired by my new surroundings. Let me focus on making sure I'm doing creative stuff and doing contracts and not letting the circumstance necessarily stop me from doing what I want to do. And then the following year, I was like, Paris, they said I have a guaranteed yes, but let me get a backup just in case. And I applied to USC. I put all my effort in that year that Paris gave me. I put all my effort into putting a portfolio together, and that was the portfolio that got me into USC. And I still say, no disrespect, but the most satisfying email I had was when they said, hey, so are you going to be coming back for your guaranteed yes? I said, I have accepted going to USC, and I was able to pivot and completely do it, and I trusted the process. And even then, I described that was during COVID. So the first year of USC was completely online. And then that brought me out to California, et cetera, et cetera. So just at any single step of that journey, regardless of the ups and downs and the trials of tribulation, be headstrong about where you want to go and be open-minded about how you're going to get there. And as long as you have both of those two things, I think that's the main tip. Outside of all the stuff we've said about networking, working on your portfolio, etc. Yeah, be headstrong and then open-minded. And both of those things they're gonna help you bear fruit, and they're gonna help you reap what you sow.
Well, thank you for that. And I want to go ahead and tell you guys, I am honored to have like-minded people in this platform. Your guys' passion, it's commendable, really. I really love how you guys expressed yourselves, how you guys were open to give that helping hand and advice to all the upcoming artists that are coming into this era of AI, basically. Hopefully they do the best out of it. But now I don't want to let you go, guys, just yet, because we have some questions from the audience right here. I told them that after our 10th question, I was gonna ask you guys what they wanted to know. Oh my, I'm still there. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just reading Sam.
Yeah.
Sam battery on his camera ran off, but he's still here. Okay,
Yes.
so
He's with us.
There.
still talking with us.
You just have my melodious voice talking to you.
There we go. That's
Well,
all we need.
This question from Polola Glue Glue. He asked, how did you guys start in the industry? What was your very first job related to animation, and how was the process to get it? Don't know if you already answered a question similar to this. Possibly this person came in a little later. But if you guys can go ahead and answer that question for this person, that would be nice.
Yeah, I mean,
Adriel
go ahead.
start.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Thank you, Sam. I've always kind of like done little things here and there for people in the industry, like kind of contractual work or like little freelance things. However, as far as my first foot in the door of the actual animation industry, like my name at studio company name .com, that was me when I got into Nickelodeon. So that being said, my experience of it was I had a career fair at USC. There were a ton of studios that came in. We called it Studio Day. They all chatted with us, and it was kind of like a hiring process where you put your portfolio up, and then all the studios have access to your portfolios, and they could look at it and kind of filter through, and then they pre-select people to chat with them. So I had met with Warner Brothers, I had met with DreamWorks, I had met with people at Sony, and then I had an interview, like 15-minute speed run interview with someone at Nickelodeon. And at this time, I was like, awesome, I want to be like a production designer. I want to be an artist, etc., things of that nature. And then I remember my first impression, I just talked to people at DreamWorks, and they were like, yeah, like art directors, art. And I was like, this is exactly what I want. I'm so happy. And I remember popping into the initial Nickelodeon interview, and the lady that I was interviewing with, she was just like, hey, just so you know, we're not accepting any art roles. And like, this is a 15-minute interview. So the first minute of it was, hey, this is not about art. And I was like, and I had to pivot. I had to like, okay, shift my mentality. She's like, this is a production thing. And I didn't let that stop me. I talked to her about production. I asked her, what's it like working at Nick? I asked her questions. I tried to find ways to relate. I talked about like being a 90s kid and what my favorite shows were. And quite literally, even though it was completely left field from what I wanted to do, I ended up getting a call back because she said, of all the people that we talked to, I love how you connected. I like how you tried to chat. I love the stories you told me, and I loved your personality. And we have an opening for a Nick turn process, and we would love for you to be a Nick turn. You're going to be doing production, and you're going to be on a show. You won't be doing art, but we would love to have you there. And that's my experience about getting my first job at Nickelodeon. Then I speak French because I'm from Montreal, and I remember someone I met at Nickelodeon, they asked me if I spoke French and if I could teach some people how to draw in French, and I ended up teaching her lessons in French on a weekly basis. I would just send her voice notes. Turns out she was the head of hiring of all of Nickelodeon. I didn't even know. So I built like a fun relationship with her, and she was like, Adriel, anytime you want to come back to Nickelodeon, just let us know. So I had to go back to school for my semester starting up again. And then I remember, the second semester came around and I was like, hey, I was like, bonjour, remember me? And I chatted with her and she was like, we got you. Let us know anything you want, what show. And I was like, I would love to be on Last Airbender. I would love to be on like SpongeBob. Like that would really bring my whole childhood full circle. And I remember she's like, I got you. We'll get it. We'll make it happen. And I got a call back and I got an email that was like, hey, the Monster High team would love to chat with you. And I was like, oh, that's not SpongeBob or Last Airbender, but hey, I was super happy about it. So I chatted with them and they made me not necessarily a production assistant or a production intern, but they made me an asset production assistant. And they said, I mentioned Nickelodeon was super great about trying to really foster your career. They literally told me, you're technically going to be an intern for the span of time, but because we know we want it to look good on your resume, we're going to make you have a contract that's short term, and we're going to make it a production asset assistant, so you have a higher role than just an intern. And that essentially is what helped me then get a job at Disney, because I knew people in the industry and like so on and so forth. So I know that was a little long-winded, but that's a little bit about how I actually got into the industry, and everything there has just been, by grace, just moving things, stacking things on top, knowing people and all that good stuff.
All right. Amazing. Well, my start of my journey, it started in 2012. I thought I was interested in engineering. That was not the case. So I changed careers and I repeat that sequence for 5 more times until 2015. I first did engineering, then I studied English literature, and then I changed to French, which I studied in Quebec, Canada, in a city called Sherbrooke. And then I came back. And by the way, that's one of the points that we talked in the beginning. I know Adriel's smiling. But one of the first conversations that we had not only was about Bad Bunny, but it was about that I studied French in Quebec. And I was like, is my French good? And he's like, you're okay. And no, he actually said it was very good. But I'm just here exaggerating. Oui,
José.
je comprends un petit peu. C'est tout que je sais dire.
Yeah, oui.
Oui, non, tu parles français,
I'm still there. I'm still working on it.
Mon ami Adriel, elle est une artiste très magnifique. Et c'est pour ça nous sommes des amis.
Oui.
Okay, that sounds exquisitely better than mine. So you're in the right track already.
It was good. And you mentioned Sherbrooke. Like Montreal is the center town, and then Sherbrooke is like an hour or so west. So when you said you lived there, I was like, whoa, that's like deep in the heart of French Canada. So that's awesome. And yeah, I remember it. Just I'll give you the floor back, but that was a very fun point of when we first met. I love reflecting on it.
I still remember, man. So I studied French for 4 months. Then I came back to Puerto Rico again and studied cinematography. I ran out of money. It was a very expensive school. I then found my school, but I got into graphic design. And it was in graphic design that I found about an animation. So 4 years have passed by. So if you're ever doubtful of, hey, like, how do you know, like, which is your calling, which is like, I jumped. I jumped so many times, and I was a person filled with doubts. I was a person that was aimless and that always felt behind, because 4 years into just jumping, and those credits don't transfer. Like my engineering credits did not transfer. None of that. It was just a waste of time, basically. It felt like a waste of time. But finally found animation in 2015, and then 2016, and then finally gave it my all. The wasted time served me as pressure to finally nail it this time. So I was a very passionate person in university. I remember taking the commitment of not playing any video games, not watching any series. I also made a promise that I would work on holidays. I also made the promise of being the last person closing the university, and also being one of the first. So I would do that every day. I would go from 7 or 8 in the morning, be all day. I did not have a computer, so I was always known by being at the library. The librarians know me very well, and all the teachers too. And at the end, the security guard also knows me very well because it was very often that we would close the gate together, and then I would have to ask him, "Hey, you closed the gate, and my car is inside." And he's like, "Again?" And I go like, "Yeah." So that was very often, and I had a lot of headaches and many scares because maybe I would not go to home that night. But that's my university life. Then I finally found I was because of my commitment. I was very known in my university, and because of many projects that I did, and because of that, the people in charge found me opportunities to work in a small studio along with my friends. We were like 13 of us, and the 13 of us got hired, and we were hired for a small series called Phantomville. And then I was doing some VFX too, and then some commercials and doing some motion graphics. And I did that for a whole 3 years. And after 3 years, a friend of mine, her name is Roy, she was challenging me that I shouldn't be in Puerto Rico anymore, that I should aim higher. And I always like, yeah, I'm gonna do it someday. And she's like, I bet
All
you
right.
won't. I'll bet money that you won't. And I was like, is that a bet? Is that a challenge? And she's like, yes. And she's like, I'm gonna make a deadline. And she wrote in her. We were coworkers. She was next to me, and her computer. She put a feature that it's like a countdown until that day, and and it was a six
Oh,
month
she really
period.
was serious about challenging you.
Yes,
Whoa, that's a
yes,
friend. She
yes. That
motivates
is an amazing friend.
it.
An
I'm gonna
amazing.
take you up on that.
Shout out to her. Shout out to her. And like, oh, now we're missing 150 days. I don't see a portfolio. I go like, I'm trying.
Oh, she really pushed your buttons.
Yeah, that was in January of 2019, and suddenly in July, the deadline was August. So in July, I hear about the Nick Arts program. I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't very aware of what the Nick Arts program was, but because of the challenge, I was like, this is an opportunity to apply. So I told my friend Roy, can you help me build my resume, my portfolio, and stuff? And she has a really good eye, and she's very known for knowing how to critique. So she was every night, all like helping me critique my my CV, helping me critique my portfolio, which piece should go in, which piece should go first, how to give a good impression. And suddenly, like 12 hours before the deadline, I finally applied to both Disney and Nickelodeon. A month later, I receive a call, and um, her name is Kate. And Kate called me. She's from Nickelodeon, and she was, "Hey, is this Sam?" And like, "Yes, that's me. We're calling from Nickelodeon. You applied to our Nick Arts program." And I go like, "I swear to you, this is how I went." The what? It's just that Nick Arts program. Like, we're from Nickelodeon. Like, you applied. I swear I forgot I did that. And I was like, "Oh, right, right. Wait, what happened?" At that point, I had assumed that I was not accepted. And suddenly she goes, "Yeah, no, like we saw your work and we have decided for you to be one of the candidates to be interviewed for ours." I was like, "Oh, it's an interview. It's not that I get accepted. It's just an interview. It's just an interview. Cool." So I was like, "When is it?" And she's like, "2 weeks from now. So get ready." 2 weeks later, I have an interview. The way it works is like you get that interview, and finally, like if you get one of the top five, then you get to round number two. They interview I don't know, like 15, 20 people maybe. I don't know the exact number. Uh, to my surprise, I was selected to go to the other round. And of course, I was like, I think I got it. Like, I think I got it. And I did a very ballsy move, which was I quit my job. I was like, I think I got it. I think I got it.
I really feel that when you in your heart you know that you're gonna do that, it's because it's destined.
Yes.
That's just how it is.
It must be because you're not gonna guess what happened next. So in October of 2019, October 31st, literally Halloween, I quit my job, and then I go to the Nick interview, and then in December 1st, I receive a call, and it starts like this: "Hey Sam, this is the Nick Arts program." I was like, please let it be. This is where I go in. Unfortunately, I was like, what? Unfortunately, your work is great. Your interview was amazing, but unfortunately, we went to with another candidate. My world flipped down. My world ended, and I was like, what have I done? So we had a great talk, and something that she spotted from the beginning was like, but you know what? You have something about teaching, and if there was any way we could get you some teaching inside of here, we would. Can we have your information? I was like, oh, that's very specific. Well, 4 years now, I am teaching, but she could spot it only by the interview. I was like, sure. She got my contact and everything, and then I think I spent the whole month in hell. Basically, I was very I got fired up. I started working like 14 hours a day. I was like, I'm not gonna let this, I'm not gonna let this stop me. I was very bitter. I was not in a very good mental state, and suddenly January 6th of 2020, I receive a call. And it's like, hey, this is Nickelodeon. At this point, I am like drained. So I'm like, yeah, like, what's up? Don't get me started with any hopes or anything. And I'm like, so something has happened. I'm like, okay. So the candidate we chose, she was also chosen by the Disney program. Now we don't have a candidate. And the second in place is you. We would like to give you that chance. Would you like to take it? And I was like, yes.
Yes.
She's like, great.
What kind of question is that?
Great. She's like, great. This is a Wednesday. You start on Monday. I go,
oh my gosh.
I'm buying a flight to LA now. She says, no flights. We start remotely. Anyways, the studio is shut down. It's COVID. So can you start on Monday? I'm like, I'm down. And it took me 2 weeks in working inside where I finally caught up to time. I was like, I did it. I am here. I did it. And then I started crying and stuff. I was like, and then like my new colleagues were like, why is he so emotional? It's been 2 weeks. It's like, you guys don't get it. You guys don't get my story.
What the hell I've been through to get here.
I just hit home run and they just told me safe just recently. They thought it was out and they watched the cameras and they went in slow motion. And just right there, by a bare miracle, I am here.
Yeah,
And
listen. I want to tell you something about that. I don't want to turn religious or anything, but there's a story that really reminds me to that friend you have. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of the story of this lady that had a disabled friend, and she heard about Jesus and she tried to come get him. It's like, please save heal my friend, heal my friend. And he did. And the friend didn't really believe in Jesus at all. It was the faith of his friend that put him there. I cannot stress this enough. It's so important to have friends that have faith in what you do, because it can take you so far. It's just not entertaining or even smart to have friends that continuously look on your downfall and are looking for the negative things that happen in your career. But that people that look at that negativity and be like, I've seen you getting out of this. Just give it a few days. You'll get there. And if you need help, just let me know. Like those kind of friends that really are there for you. Wow. I mean, God bless those friends. So shout out to your friend. That was really good.
Roy, yeah, amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and talking about that, I did ask you guys before for those 3 tips for upcoming animators and stuff like that. And while listening to you guys, I just came up with 3 Ds.
Okay.
Determination, dedication, and drive. Those are 3 things I just saw in you guys. And I feel that those 3 are very important for people to have in order to get in the position that you guys are or more. So thank you so much for that. That being said, let's go to this other question. This is a person that probably, this is a friend of mine. Excuse him. He asked, what did you mean with verbal competence? And no, Javier Nino, I'm not going to read the other comment you left. This is the one that's coming.
Verbal competence, right? So yeah, I read the question and I laughed. Yes. So this is a very difficult truth to a lot of artists, because the between internal conversations, they like to say how much they don't like to interact with other people, and that's good. And if the buzzword, which is, oh, communication is important, but you praise that it's not important and it's fine, you don't have to challenge yourself out of your comfort zone, then you miss out of a lot of opportunities. The reality is you have to find any tool, any measurement, any skill that people can perceive your value. You might have a lot of value, but if you don't know how to communicate it through skills, through communication, I just told you a whole story of how I grew up, and you weren't even there, but I'm trying to paint you pictures, and through my verbal competence, transport you to what it felt to be that way. Even if that went true, but I don't have the ability to speak, you could not enjoy or see the value of my story. So I encourage people to get out of their comfort zones, be like, it's true, I do not speak, I am shy, and that's fine, I'll work on it. And you make little baby steps. You talk here, you talk there, you work in your intonation, you work in your pauses, you work on your charisma, you work on your tact, and suddenly, like, more people want to be around you, more people give you more opportunities, and you're like, verbal competence and social skills are actually valuable. So that's what I mean by verbal competence.
Okay, well, thank you for that. I want to tell you guys something. There is one person that piggybacked on our AI conversation, and he said, very good points. I can appreciate that you are looking at AI as a tool, and the use of AI is only as threatening as the ethics of the person using that tool. That is
Wow.
a very, very amazing point there.
Wow, that last point. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that being said, let's go to this other question by Alia Smith. How do you find the discipline to stay grounded and not get caught up in the competition of the business?
Adriel.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things about it is kind of what I described earlier of like everyone has their own life path, you know? Same thing as like if you're looking at Instagram and you see people from when you were in high school, now they're married, they have a kid and they have a house, etc., and you're gonna find yourself getting depressed. It's the sense of everyone has their own way of doing things, everyone has their own life path, and you need to make sure to focus just on yours. Ours, Sam and mine, was very unconventional, but when we present ourselves here to you today, you wouldn't even guess it. So that's just to show that, you know, you don't have the success, you don't have the highs without the lows. So taking that into consideration, I would just say first and foremost, the competition of business, everyone's on their mission, everyone's in their own lane. The best thing you can focus on is how do I make sure I have the best shoes? How do I make sure I'm in the best shape, metaphorically speaking, if you're treating it like a race. So discipline, you know, finding the discipline, I think you should be honestly motivated, and you should be like a spark should be lit up by the desire to be able to want to be at the top. You know, you should be motivated and you should feel inspired by the fact that this is where I want to go. These are the arts. I want to work on Spider-Verse. I want to work on Arcane. I want to work on all these things. These are my goals. And just that spark, like that's my finish line, should be enough for you to be like, how do I myself? And I'm speaking in shoulds as if I'm preaching it, but to answer the question of how I myself find it, I view it like this. So I know exactly where I do want to go, and I just know that along the way, you know, there are things that I can do to improve. There are things that I can do to massage my way in certain directions. You know, if my course veers off a little bit, just make sure that I'm still adaptable and creative. I find creative solutions, so find a way to pivot if needed. But yeah, and we already talked about how the industry is always growing. So the thing is, I can live in a silo and master the skill of 2D hand drawing and then tilt my head up like an ostrich from the sand, and out of nowhere, like Unreal Engine is like the thing that everyone's talking about. No one cares about what I'm doing right now. I'm not saying it's going to get to that extreme, but making sure you're always poking your head up, you're always seeing how the playing field is constantly changing, making sure that, you know, using the metaphor of a race, that you are doing the best thing you can to get those shoes. You know, if you're going to treat time and investment like money, invest the time so that you can afford those shoes. Invest the effort, be a student of life, always be willing to learn and always be willing to improve
That's
yourself.
important.
Yeah. And then everything else is just a matter of time, I will say. You have people like, you know, on an actors, Ian McKellen, you have actors that have never acted their entire life. They always wanted to be an actor, and they started, you've only seen them when they're old because they started at 65. You know, it's like everyone's journey is different. It's never too late as long as you just put in the effort and the work. And Sam just touched on it earlier. I think the importance of work is one that is not to be underestimated. You can get anywhere as long as you can convince yourself that you can, and as long as you put in the work and take the steps. Like when you described that if you're shy and you don't necessarily feel like you're being social, that doesn't mean, and when I described if I want to be a director, it's not going to happen tomorrow. But I can start today being aware of what it takes and taking those baby steps to get there. So the discipline honestly just comes from the fact that I'm so inspired and I know where I want to go. And discipline to me is just a building block of how to get there.
Yep. That being said, I want to give a shout out to my daughter. She was the one who asked the AI question, and
Nice.
I put a panel here. So, well, it's a lot going on when it comes to the finding the discipline. I like that you said that determination, because at the end of the day, you can make whatever decision you want to make. If you don't have the determination and the dedication to stay there and continue, there is not a lot of things that you can do. There's a lot of people that will surpass you just because they are not lacking on those qualities. So yeah, pay attention to your craft. Like Sam said, it's very important that you do what Sam said. Sam said compare, but don't get lost in that comparison, because your art is unique. Compare because you do want to stand out. You want to do something different than what everybody else is doing. But at the same time, you don't want to say, oh, well, he does it better than me. No, how can I make it better than him? Like, how? If you still don't have that ability, how can I? And start there. So thank you for that, Adriel and Sam. You guys are amazing. I have one last question, and I think this person is talking about the engines you guys were using. Not sure. World creation. Where do I start on Real Engine?
that is a very open question
Hmm.
because world means environment. There's many tools, but if it's Unreal Engine, let's start with realistic assets. Like Unreal Engine has made sure to have a library of assets that are already modeled, that have 8K resolution. So I would start working with the mega scans that they offer. They are free. And if you want to build, for example, a forest with a village inside, with filled with natives, and on the other side there's a volcano, and another village of, I don't know, uh, magical skeletons, deadly skeletons live there. Unreal Engine does give you that tool. Of course, there's many skills in that little story that I just gave you. For example, characters, you do need to do modeling or sculpting, and there's other skills like texturing to customize the kind of world that you want. So to get started, just get familiarized with the mega scans from Unreal Engine, and I think that should be a good start.
I also think that's also from a technical perspective, and I would say big thing as well as we already described is story as well. So when you're talking about world creating, make sure you lock down what kind of world you want to create, because you always have all these tools and assets at your disposal, but it can feel like a sandbox sometime. You open up Unreal, you can do the footwork to actually get comfortable in Unreal, as Sam was describing. But if you're just kind of like, all right, sandbox, I'm going to put a volcano, I'm going to put a bridge, I'm going to put the New York building right here, and then I'm going to put a dragon, etc. You can build a world in Unreal, but I think story is the most important. Describe what you want to tell. I saw a movie, and the movie had like a really cool dystopian vibe, and I love this photography that's really nice and like eerie and like moody, kind of like Blade Runner. So collect your assets and figure out what kind of story you want to tell, and then build your world using the reference. Build your world using the Quixel. You also have stuff. There's an asset called Kit Bash that I was a big fan of with 3D. It has a ton of stuff that's just accessible to you and a lot of different art styles. So it has like a cyberpunk world, it has a Wild West world, it has like a retro like sci-fi dystopian, it has an apocalyptic world, and you just kind of pay for it, and then you get the assets and you can sandbox it then. But focus on your story, and then after you have your story or what exactly you want to show or tell your audience, or even if just you can have an audience of just you, then I would say dive into the actual process of creating the world, and then the character comes in afterwards as well. So yeah.
Well, thank you, Kylie, Nicole, for that question. That being said, we have came to the conclusion of our interview. But before you guys leave, we have free speech, but here we have free art speech. So go ahead and tell us what you guys want to share with the audience.
You mean your socials and stuff?
Whatever, it's free art speech here.
All right. So if you want to reach out to me or my courses or my coaching, you can find me on my social media at Sam Pagan 10 at Sam Pagan 10. With that username, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on all platforms. Really, it is all connected. So Sam Pagan 10 would be my username, and hit me a DM, and we can get you coached. We can get you the best advice. I can personally, see your work and see how I would craft your career. So there you go. That's my Instagram, and yeah, let's talk.
Yeah, art speech wise as well. Likewise, you can feel free to find my Instagram. We're gonna link it right here. It is at Arekusan Meka. Excuse me, at underscore. Oh my god, at Arekusan underscore Meka. That's AREKUSAN underscore MEKA. Feel free to reach out. Feel free to check out the work. I post as much as I can, and I'm super happy to have people follow the journey. I also do coaching online. You can find on my website, adrielmeka.com. And then tune in. Like, you'll see Sam and I as a dynamic duo very often. So tune in for our meet and greet sessions. Tune in for any time that we like to collaborate and stuff. And also, for all the viewers that are actually watching, just keep doing stuff like this. Like, you're watching this because you're passionate about the industry, and keep fostering that passion. I think it's amazing that we can create these spaces where you can just, whether you're sitting at home and watching on your phone, or sitting in the office, or have a huge setup and you're watching this. Like, I just tell you guys to keep pursuing that passion and keep doing this thing, because it is such an amazing world, and it is so fulfilling when you can see the efforts that you're putting out coming back to you. So stay on the path, and yeah, thank you so much, Rose, for having us. This has been such an amazing experience for both Sam and myself, and yeah, thank you.
No, guys.
Thank you, Rose.
Thank you. I'm honored to have you guys here, and thank you for sharing all that beautiful knowledge. That being said, guys, you want to say goodbye?
Of course.
Go ahead, Adriel.
I mean,
how do you cordially say?
Yes.
Bye.
Au revoir. À bientôt à tout le monde. Gros merci. There you go. That's the French side. But thank you guys so much for joining. Tune in for Rose's amazing interviews. Feel free to follow and connect with all of us, and we'll be able to create as much value as we can for you guys. So thank you for hosting Sam and myself. I had a blast. It was so fun getting to chat with you guys, and hopefully we'll get to do it again.
Likewise. I sign out. I hope to see you soon. I hope to see you on my DMs. Let's get connected. Everything that we have said is important about networking, about discipline. Take that to heart. Don't be that person that stays, one story away and not getting into the knowledge. If you put in the work all the time, you will get there, as long as you don't quit. Don't quit. Always research. Be resourceful. Be resourceful. That's the most valuable skill. If you can find resources, if you have the ability to find resources, that's all you need. So there's not one place to find all your answers. It's a combination of many places. So be resourceful, and I hope to see you next time.
Absolutely.
Guys, thank you for tuning in, and you're watching Movie Talk with Press Play Cinema, again with Adriel, Meka, and Sam Pagan. Guys, goodbye. See you tomorrow, and dare to inspire.